Hello, blockchain nerds, traders, hodlers, moon boys, of course, Zyptonians, and today a big shout out to the Pawchain community who are listening in absolute droves, I'm sure, across Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere that we're publishing. So thanks once again to AI for our intro music. We're enjoying all of these different creations that AI is giving us. Welcome to the Crypto Made Easy with Zypto podcast. This podcast is brought to you, as always, by Zypto.com, and we're recording live in the @Global Telegram channel, home of our very own Zyptonian community. So we've got a great episode for you today. Once again, today featuring Pawchain, who are friends of ours. According to the website, Pawchain.net, Pawchain puts layer 3 interoperability in your hands or in your paws. I'm starting off the episode with a dad joke. My name is Joe Parkin. I'm one of the founders of Zypto. And in this episode, we're delighted to have one of the core team members of Pawchain, 21. So, 21, what would be your title, your job description?
I'm a Genesis team member, but I'm also the marketing and growth lead as well. So we handle everything from project marketing to project collaborations with other projects to listings, outward onboarding, just basically a jack of all trades.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for joining us. So I'm just going to die, and then after that, I'm going to explain the 3 sections that we have in the podcast. The first section is the basics. We're trying to make this reasonably noob friendly, so we're going to be going through some of the basic concepts related to your project, so that people can understand what we're talking about as we go. Then we're going to go for a deep dive into Pawchain so that you can educate us about what you guys are doing. And then at the end, a section we call the big picture, where we talk about some more kind of broader topics in Web3, DeFi, blockchain. Okay, so before we start that, though, it would be great if you could give us a bit of a rundown about yourself, your background, what motivates you, and this kind of thing.
My story is I came from a different community. I was in a different project quite some years ago. I didn't get into DeFi until maybe 2021, 22. And I had come from traditional trading, traditional stocks, stuff like that, traditional markets. I bought Bitcoin, Ethereum on all the major CEXs. You know, that's how I kind of got into crypto. And then I think 2021, 22, I made my first NFT collection. So that's when I kind of dove into DeFi. And that journey ultimately led me to Paul. That's where I met some of the team members previously, and I met a lot of the community members previously. So whenever Paul kind of took off, I just naturally fell in line and fell right into the ranks of it.
Cool. Right. So tell you what, let's jump straight into the first section that we call the basics. So I hope I'm not throwing you too much into the deep end here. So I'll give you a bit of background. In our first 2 episodes, we've had 2 L1 blockchains with us. We had Reef and we had Nimic. So we've had L1s, and they've explained in their own words what an L1 blockchain is, as simply as they could. Now, you guys are an L3, so we're jumping up 2 layers. So I'm going to have to ask you to explain the whole holy blockchain trinity. So from L1 up to L3, what the differences are, if you're able to kind of explain what the differences are in terms of what they're for. I think that's kind of the main thing. The technicalities are not quite so important. It's like, what do they do? What does an L2 do compared to an L1? And why have you decided to go for an L3?
So yeah, your L1s and L2s, they came along and were very, Bitcoin would be an L1. Ethereum would be like an L2. So you have different applications, and you have different, I'm not going to say limitations, but you have different building constrictions, you know, things that you can't really build outward, which is the technology of those chains. So your L1, you can deploy smart contracts from, all that good stuff. So even though you have L3s, your L1s or L2s still play a vital part. Most L3s, until they build out their launchpad, will use an L1 or an L2 to actually deploy tokens on a blockchain. So they're very common. They're very still used. They're very they thrive in the space. As we know, Ethereum's very, very usable, and it is trying to adapt as we build outward.
But how do you define what an L2 is? Because it's layer 2, but we're kind of sometimes we assume everybody's going to know what we're talking about with these things. But how would you define an L2, like what it does?
Yeah, sure. So, and layer two is like a secondary blockchain network. It kind of offloads some of the workload from the main blockchain or the layer one, rather. So, you
Hmm.
have a lot of side chains that are actually still using Ethereum, but they're not built on top, which is what a true layer two is. They're only built on the side. And that's kind of like a common thing right now that people are slipping, L1s or L2s, side chains under the premise of being a layer two built on top. But a layer two is actually built on top of the layer one. That's going to help it reduce the friction, and it's going to offload some of that work to it. So as the L1 becomes filled up with congestion, network congestion, users, things like that, you build your L2 on top to kind of create an extra road, if you will, to kind of give your layer one
Yeah.
some more efficiency.
Yeah, so I think that's probably a useful analogy to, like, it happens very often with towns and cities. As traffic builds up, they'll build bypasses.
Exactly.
What would you call
Exactly.
it in the States?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Would you call it a bypass in the States?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like a bypass or like an exit ramp or like
Yeah.
a feeder road or something like that. But a bypass is absolutely a great analogy.
Okay, cool. So we've got all of these L1 chains, which is the kind of the primary network where transactions are taking place, where the validation happens. Then we've got the L2s, which are bypasses that allow more traffic to move through more efficiently. And then we have L3. So what's L3 doing?
So your layer three is going to be like it allows for creation of like customized dApps. And your layer threes are built on top of a layer one and layer two solutions, mind you. So in order to be a true layer solution, you have to be built on top, not on the side. So our
Yeah.
layer three is actually built on top of our layer two because we're still using the native token of our layer one, which is Paul. So
Oh, okay.
that's how the chain kind of that's how you can always kind of verify building on top as opposed to building to the side. So that's what, and your layer three is going to do the same thing as your layer two. It's going to improve scalability, interoperability, and functionality. You can just do different things. Like our layer three has an off-chain ledger. So there's certain advantages you can do with an L3 that you can't necessarily do with an L1 and L2. But they all interconnect, and they're all interoperable. That helps alleviate congestion and workloads off of the previous layer.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in one of the things you said. You have an off-chain ledger.
Correct. Yes, sir, we do. So Pawchain actually utilizes an L3 off-chain ledger. And one of the key ways that they utilize it is they remove, so for example, whenever Pawchain connects to Ethereum, it's going to
Yeah.
remove the high frequency transactions and the high computation transactions that happen repetitively off of Ethereum. And it actually puts them on our own back, and it puts them on our off-chain, or I'm sorry, our L3 off-chain ledger, and it helps remove them congestion from any chain that we connect to. So it's one of the ways we use our technology to not only build for us, but to actually build for everyone we connect to.
Okay. So, but when you say off-chain, is it not stored on any blockchain at all?
So it's done off chain, but then of course, the data is moved back to chain. So it is done
Okay.
off chain.
That's interesting because I often speak to people about how people tend to want everything to be on chain, or if it's not on chain, then it's not valid. I tend to argue that we should use the right tools for the right jobs. So I said in a recent.
That is absolutely a great point, and I think that is what the focus for blockchain is becoming. And I tell people a lot: it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. We
Mhm.
just taking the wheel and putting it on the automobile for the first time, right? We're just tweaking it to how we need it to work for us right here, right now in this space.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, thank you for that. It's something that I think to really understand L1, L2, and L3 chains would require a PhD, really. But I think that gives
you're
a general.
you're you're absolutely right. I can get lost in that stuff. So without getting, because once you start to peel back the layers, you have to be more. It's more of a dedicated focus towards an L1. So as you're talking about it, you have to kind of generalize it.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Right. We're going to move on so that you can tell us more specifically about Pawchain in our deep dive. So I like to ask all the projects that join us about the origin story. So how did Pawchain start? So first of all, the name. And actually, before you start, I'm going to tell you that the rebrand that you did, I told you guys this in ages ago, but the rebrand you did with the logo is fantastic. I really like I don't know who created the logo, but the way you've kind of represented the paw in such a kind of abstract way, I think is really clever. So how did Pawchain start?
So we started as a decentralized swap, and we wanted to be a multi-chain swap, and that's how we were going to operate. So we were going to be based on another blockchain, and whenever we came out, we were just going to build on that blockchain, be a multi-chain DEX, and be able to connect blockchains and connect communities. But we started to notice the limitations of said chains, and that's when we ran into the constrictions that I mentioned earlier of layer ones and layer twos, and not being what they should be by technological standard. You know what I mean? So we actually needed something that was, okay, this is what it is. This is how it works. It's a true layer one, true layer two, but we couldn't really find it. So we were like, man, let's go ahead and build it. So that's whenever we started to kind of build, and build towards, and mind you, we already had the solutions in mind. So we were building towards those solutions the entire time. A lot of projects will lose their way and lose their vision whenever they start to build, and they realize it's expensive, it's this or it's that, then they kind of the vision becomes diluted. So we were able to keep that vision the entire time. So I'm very thankful for that. So we started to build. Right, I know it seems minute, but it's something tricky doing this space by far.
Trust me, I know very well. I know very, very well how hard it is to follow.
I wear that shirt proudly. So it was a layer one, layer two, and we started building there. Then we realized there was a lot more potential in the layer three. So we started focusing more on the aspect of being able to do the bridge swap bridge from the layer three in one transaction, right? So that's something that traditionally was going to take you 3 or 4 transactions and lead you down this real bumpy road. So once we started to realize we can do more from our L3, we actually scrapped our L1 and L2. We used it when we went live to deploy and get things up and running, but eventually we will do all the magic from the L3. So whenever Pawchain came, it wanted to be a DEX. They couldn't find the right blockchain that was sufficient. We built our own from scratch. And there's not a single copy and pasta in this entire code. It actually took Certic 6 months to audit the chain. I mean, that's
wow.
That's pretty rad right there. 6 months, that says a lot about the chain itself. And they also dubbed us things like the world's first layer 3 centric blockchain. That title came specifically from Certic. So when they were doing the audit, we realized, man, this thing is very beautiful. It's very magical. So we started to do the work from the L3, and that's what actually led to a lot of the cross-chain and multi-chain functions, and being able to remove the middlemen like nodes and let smart contracts interact with smart contracts. Let things happen like building out for the Solana connection. You know what I mean? Being able to tailor an EVM chain to a Solidity chain was something revolutionary. But that's how it was able to be done, was from the layer 3, as we spoke of earlier, custom decentralized applications and things like that. So that's where you get that kind of interaction from it, is from your L3. So we started to move out that way, and that's whenever we became just cross-chain solutions on everything. And we started building towards that, and that's what's led us to the place we're at now.
Well, I'm going to, for anybody listening that doesn't really understand the significance of this, if we consider that different blockchains are like different operating systems, let's think like Mac OS or Windows or iOS and Android. A lot of the problem that exists currently in the crypto space is the fact that they can't talk to each other. And that makes things very frustrating, and the user experience is horrendous. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 21, but I think essentially what you're trying to do is a similar thing to having, making it so that you can send files between an Android phone and an iPhone, or send an email from your Mac to your PC. Is that about right?
Yes, that's exactly it. Blockchains only move blocks of data. So I know people think of blockchain and think of crypto, but you have to take it a step further and zoom out. So being able to move blocks of data up and down the blockchain is what a blockchain is for. So yes, being able to talk to other types of networks, let these blocks of data interact with themselves on the blockchain is how it was absolutely connected. So being able to talk to Apple going to Android, apples and oranges, potato, all those connections were needed to be made, and we needed a more efficient way to do it. So without a third party as well. So that was one of the key features, is being able to have these contracts interact, but without that third party. So that's what ultimately led us to be able to do the bridge swap bridge from the L3 a lot cheaper, safer, and faster, and more efficiently.
Cool. So let's look at the kind of user experience. So what kinds of things can we do with Pawchain?
Oh, good. Great question. So as a builder, and this is your user experience from a builder, you can actually deploy one liquidity pool in your project, regardless if it's a token, an NFT, a DApp, a game, whatever it is that you would like to put and have based on a blockchain, regardless of what it is. You can actually do that work in one place now on one blockchain, but yet your asset will be accessible across Base, Arbitrum, Ethereum, Polygon, BNB, the native Pawchain, AVAX, Optimism, CeeLo, and as I mentioned earlier, we're currently working on Solana connection along with Tron, and we're going to give you 5 more EVMs by the end of the year as well. So
one thing is EVM, but adding in non-EVM chains to this.
Remember,
huge.
as we spoke of Android being able to talk to Apple, right? That's the technology we have, so we'd be foolish not to use it. So we definitely want to bring in Solana. That is one of the key factors, and that's also going to fuel the fire for mass adoption. Because whenever you have a blockchain network that can communicate with, say, American Express or Visa, imagine the possibilities there. That's really, really cool. I'm very bullish on that. But I think
that's exciting stuff, especially with what we do at Zypto. This is technology, and I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that we have already been speaking for a while, Zypto and Pawchain. I'm excited to start building with you guys, see what we can do to make crypto more accessible, more interoperable at the end of the day, so that people can just use it without having to worry about what blockchain is it on. That's one of the big problems that we have, is the fragmentation of technology and community, actually.
Yes. And I think so. Moving forward, it'll let projects be able to focus back on actually building and not so much, I need to get 5 liquidity pools ready because I want to be on 5 different chains. I need a VC. I need a pre-sale. All that can go out the window, and like NFTs, minting an NFT in one place, but having holders across 8 chains is really, really cool. That's absolutely going to be a very bullish point that I'm very excited for.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. So, final question in the this middle section is: what role would you say community plays in Pawchain?
Oh, good question. Very good one. And the community plays a very large role in Pawchain. So we build for the community, and it's not necessarily just our community; it's for every community. So we have a large finger on the pulse of the community. So anything that we do is bounced off the community. Like, hey guys, would you like to see this happen, or would you like to see this happen? This is what we can do. These are our 3 options. Let's choose our route together. So what it does is it kind of helps prevent from having to do DAO things and everybody to come together. We do have 2 successful DAO passes, and we do have 2 successful DAO votes. But we kind of like to use the DAO as a last solution. You know what I mean? Like, we can communicate with our community within Telegram, Discord, Twitter, and get pretty recent, or if not live, feedback on what they would like to see us build and what solutions, what route we would like to take to get there. So having them show up for spaces, tweeting, competitions, and there's all types of Discord events. There's always something happening in Telegram. The community is very, very well engaged with Pawchain, and we wouldn't prefer to have it any other way.
I'm asking this question partly because that's one of the big things about crypto that people don't quite understand, is that it's built by community. It is community in the same way. So crypto has been described as the cash of the internet, and the internet thrives on people speaking to each other, communication, people forming these communities, and those communities interacting with one another. And crypto is an extension of that. And this is why we have our community as well, which is where we are recording right now. And I personally don't think you can exist in the crypto space, without engaging the community. And I really like the fact that you said your community and every other community, because we like to think that we're blessed in a way that our project in particular is like yours in that we can work with just about everyone.
And that's the kind of connection that we need, not just from us, but throughout the whole space. It's very compartmentalized, and everything's kind of fragmented, especially liquidity. So that also fragmentizes, communities, people's applications, uses, and that kind of thing. That's what we want to do away with. make everything interoperable. Every community, every blockchain.
Fantastic. So that's as is a running theme in these podcasts and all of the spaces and everything that we participate in. This is something that I'm excited to work with you guys towards. So right, I'm going to move on to the last section here because I think it's going to be good for us to leave some space for questions at the end as well. Okay. And actually, what I've thought of for us to speak about, part of it does have to do with what we were just saying. So I'm going to start off with this kind of broader question. This can be your own personal opinion. It doesn't have to be a poor thing. Right? So, okay. Could you explain to people that are listening, because they may have seen around crypto, social media, etc., things about Uptober or Pumptober. Could you explain a bit why this is such a big deal for people in the crypto space and just what it is? Because I'm sure I've had people asking me, what's this? What's Uptober or Pumptober?
So Uptober is come to a lot of our focus here recently because every 4 years in Bitcoin, you have a thing called a halving. And that's whenever your rewards get kind of split up, they get halved. For if you're mining Bitcoin, then your rewards, or validating it rather, your rewards get split for doing that process. So they're making a little less. So around those times, traditionally and historically, there's always been a large bull run, and we are supposed to, depending on what you believe in crypto, I guess. This is supposed to be year 4 of the cycle as well. So depending on where we're at in the cycle, it always has something to do with the way the markets will run. But that's why Uptober has been in such a spotlight here for this in this particular year. I think that's where the October thing actually kind of came from, because that's when everyone's expecting any kind of a bull run, if that is the case, that will pan out for us.
I think it's a particularly big one. Every year, traditionally, October is a good month for crypto markets. Sure. I think it's basically really practical reasons. People go out and they spend their money on holidays during the summer. Then September, they're recovering from the summer, and then October is when they start having some free money again. So generally, that's where they've been able to invest in crypto, and that moves the markets. This year
makes sense.
It
makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
If you go into the season, you're about to spend money on Christmas. So it might be one of those middle things where we kind of start to detach from the money before Christmas gets here, maybe. Yeah, because you're about to blow it all on presents.
Exactly. So related to that, how important do you think psychology is in the crypto market? Like the way people's feelings can affect the market and affect the way adoption happens, the way charts move, and all that kind of thing.
They are very important because these projects prey on them. So there's not a project out there that's really just giving you the technological standard and say, hey, this is a solution. We solved some stuff over here. Whenever you crypto, we're going to make it easier for you. They have things like charity. They have things like puppies. They have things like cat memes. They have things like happy memes. They have things like whatever your governmental political stance is memes. So a lot of these projects are using psychology to get you to use your emotions to buy, right? Yeah. So then you become attached to these projects. You don't want to just dump on it. You want to let it do its thing. You want to see it become a bright, beautiful project, but that's not the case with every project. So the psychology is super important. And the reason, or the way that we try to help this, is by delivering not only our community, but the space of crypto as well, delivering them something brand new, something revolutionary, something that it is what it's supposed to be. And more so importantly, it is what it is exactly what we're selling. It is the technological standard of a layer 3 that does things cheaper, safer, faster, infinitely scalable. But yeah, so the psychology is important. And we felt to combat that and to get people to leave their emotions to the side, we needed to tell them, hey, this is the layer 3. This is what it's supposed to be by technological standard. This is what we gave you. You don't have to feel good about it. You don't have to feel bad about it. It's not a matter of feeling. It's a matter of saving money. It's a matter of doing it safer, and it's a matter of doing it faster. That's what we built. So we don't prey on emotion. We prey on practicality and applications.
Okay, so that leads into the other thing that I was going to talk to you about, because both Zypto and Pawchain, we're building stuff, building and building and building, which is very expensive, very time consuming. Much more difficult than a lot of what's going out there in the crypto space. But then it gets rather frustrating because we're swamped by what we refer to as moon boy mentality and all the screaming into the void, as I say, on social media from these people that have bought, that are not in, well, they're investing emotionally, as you say. So how do you think, well, first of all, do you think it's possible for us to change the narrative towards people looking at actual utility and people actually trying to do things rather than, I have nothing in particular against meme coins. It's just the fact that people do tend to get rather over emotional about it, and that's when they're not thinking straight. So do you think it's possible for us to change people's mentality towards preferring technology-based projects? And if so, how do you think we might be able to take steps towards that?
I think it needs to be all. I think it needs to be all inclusive. It needs to be all inclusive. So just because we have, the world's fastest blockchain, or we have this, this new layer 3 technology, doesn't mean that you have to have another similar project to use it, right? You can be a meme coin, you can be a blue chip token, you can be a utility project, regardless of what it is. You're able to do it cheaper, safer, and faster. So we don't look too far into it to kind of to decipher whether it's a meme or a blue chip, project. We just say, hey, a project, and that's where the I don't know what the word, right, labeling, or that's where the labeling stops. We just stop at crypto project. Hey, cool. You need somewhere to build, and that's because in this space, most projects start off as one thing, but they morph into it, or they evolve into something totally different once they see, okay, this isn't going to work, or maybe they get a better idea. Because ideas come from good ideas, and that's where we really deeply believe in that. So we kind of just leave it up for grabs. And hey, if you're building in this crypto space on a blockchain, we have a solution for you.
Yeah, that's our attitude as well. So we don't feel that we should judge. For example, if somebody wants to pay for a pair of shoes with a meme coin, and the merchant wants to accept the meme coin in exchange for the pair of shoes. It's not for us to judge that, So what I was referring to was, so we like to be inclusive also. So we want to integrate everybody's blockchains. We want to provide everybody with the opportunities to use their assets for whatever they want to. Well, I was kind of referring to the fact that there's this people that are new to the space, especially, tend to fall into a lot of traps. Because of all the overhyped, overshouty kind of projects that are out there. And it's very difficult to help them, so to stay away from all of that. Do you think there is any way that that's going to change? Do you think maybe, I've considered lots of different things, just to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Like, will social media put limits on the spam that happens? Because there's a lot of botting, there's a lot of fake followers and fake just about everything. Do you think some social media will ever do anything about it, or do you think they love it because of the engagement and the advertising?
I think social media is picking for a low. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see the little voice thing moving, so I just want to make sure. So I think social media has been picking the low hanging fruit. Like I mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of projects that one will call themselves red, one will call themselves green, but it's the same exact project, but they want you, buy me. There's no use case for it, it's just, but it's cool though. So, they tell you things like do your own research, but they don't tell you how to do it. They don't give you credible sources to do it at. They just tell you these things, so it's not like a liability for themselves. So what we want to do is start giving people education. And that's what we would like to take the space back by educating people to make, credible decisions in this space, and not by emotion, by by technological standard. So we feel that education is the only way that's really going to start to kind of take our space back and make our space great again. We have things that are being slipped in, like, things like layer 2, but it's really a layer 1. So there's a lot of fugazi, a little bit of smoke and mirrors happening. So we definitely want people to be able to understand what is what, so they know how to use it in the future, and they know how to really get the most out of it. So yes, I do think there is a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of fugazi going around, and there are
Yeah.
projects that will try to slip you one thing, give you the old bait and switch. But we feel that if you start to undersell and over deliver, it'll kind of change the standard and lead by example. We KYC, we did a lot of things new. That way, we weren't just up here saying this is what needs to happen. This is what we are doing, right? It changed the space from, well, we think this will make the space better to, hey, this is our contribution to the current space now. Kind of leading by example type thing. And that's we're trying to make the space great again by not only leading by example, but definitely through education. And we have Paul Academy will be coming out that'll allow content creators to be able to do things like wallets 101, importing contracts 101, So it'll definitely
Fantastic.
put a focus back on education.
Oh, fantastic. Well, at some point in the future, it'd be great to have you back on again. And then when this is live, and then we could, I'll be happy to help guide people towards that, because education is one of the big things that's lacking in the space.
Yes,
So
definitely.
Thank you for that. Now we're going to open up the floor to anybody that has any questions for 21. If you'd like to raise your hand here in the chat. Once again, just so people know, we're recording live in the @Zypto Global Telegram group. You can join us here, and we record. We'll be recording once or twice a week. Anybody? So Mike has a question. So are there any ongoing discussions and technical plans to integrate Zypto services directly with Pawchain's Layer 3 network, or any other plans to collaborate? So, well, it would have to go.
I think that's a split question. Half you, half me.
Yeah. Those are, so we would have to.
Great one. I like it.
Yes, it's fantastic. So there are definitely things that we've been discussing regarding, in both directions. We're both trying to do similar things. We're trying to make it easy, and from my side, I'll say I think there's a lot of opportunities to make things such as swaps much more sensible than they often have been. So there's not, so that people just say, I've got that and I want that. Click, done. That's what we want.
Mm-hmm. That's what the user interface for Pawchain is. The cross-chain application is being able to sit down, select what crypto you want, regardless of chain, and see it in your wallet in record fastest time. That's what the user sees. All the magic we discussed earlier all happens on the back end. So being able to pair with things like your app, and being able to have different applications that foster that cross-chain unification, I think would be key for not only y'all, but for us as well,
Absolutely. Well, this is the whole point. And I think anybody listening should know, if you look at what Pawchain have done and what Zypto have done, we don't just talk the talk. we get things done. So if we're talking about it, there's a very high probability of it happening and it happening reasonably soon as well. So reasonably soon, although soon in crypto is a dangerous word. So
I think we got one more. It looks like it's a security question.
Security question. Fantastic. Okay. So the question is, what security measures does Pawchain employ, especially when it comes to multi-chain environment?
I like this one a lot. So the security, the first aspect of security will be the bridge swap bridge that we talked about earlier. So traditionally, and right now, if you want to bridge out to a different blockchain, you're going to have to use a third party. So if you're on Ethereum, you're going to have to use a third party bridge. It's not going to be an Ethereum bridge. You're going to let a third party come and facilitate your bridge out, right? And your bridge in, and then your bridge back out, and your bridge back in. You're going to facilitate also about 3 to 4 transactions on average. Pawchain lets you do it in one transaction with no third party. So we're actually facilitating the bridge itself. So you don't have to leave the chain. You don't have to interact with any new apps. You don't have to interact with any new smart contracts. And 90% of the time when you're going cross-chain, the malicious contracts and wherever the hackers or scammers try to hit you is going to be that bridge. That's where they slip in the malicious code. That's where they slip in the malicious smart contract. So we solved that. You're not dealing with those people anymore, and you're not doing 3 to 4 transactions. You're only approving one. And that's the beauty of the L3, the bridge swap bridge, remember? So it's not the layer 3 is being able to do the bridge swap bridge in one transaction from that layer 3 and interact directly with that smart contract on the other side and not. So that is a big safety aspect. I know it doesn't seem like it walking into it, but it actually alleviates quite a few safety issues in regards to bridges. So another way that Pawchain is kind of revolutionary is the way that it validates. So the two validators ahead of the block in question being validated, the two validators ahead of it are going to validate the ones behind it. So they're validating in the past, and the one behind the block in question is going to be validating the one up front. So if you picture a recycling symbol moving up and down the blockchain, it's always going to be validating the people of ahead of that block and the people behind it. So it's a new way to do validation that's a lot more accurate and a lot more safer and secure, as well as CertiK Skynet. So we have continual monitoring. It's called the Skynet monitoring program. So there's always going to be third-party eyes of CertiK. There's going to have eyes on our blockchain 24 hours, 365 days a year. And so for any anomalies, any vulnerabilities, we're going to know about it within 5 minutes. So that's really probably the most secure aspect of it, is being able to open up your chain to third party and say, hey, come watch everything we do, and please watch it closely and let us know if we mess up. Basically, is how it works.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got one last question, and then we're going to wrap up. So how does the single liquidity pool model compare to traditional multi-pool systems? And what advantage does it offer to dApp developers, DeFi projects, and I'd add to that the end user?
Oh, I like that. Absolutely great question. I like that
Brilliant
one a lot.
Question.
Right. So traditionally you would have to do one liquidity pool per chain. So say I have a project, Token X, and I want it to be on Ethereum, BNB, and Polygon, and I have 100K. Now I have to decide if I want to put 33,000 on each chain, or if I want to do 25,000 on each chain. And mind you, when I do that, my price impact per liquidity pool is going to be a lot larger, right? Yeah. I don't have that same buffer. So when someone sells $5, it's going to be a bigger hit than whenever it would at 100K for a liquidity pool, right? Because size does matter. And liquidity pools, I hate to admit it, but it's the truth.
It does,
one of the benefits from a project is the financial factor. I only have to put 50K instead of, this big, these multiple liquidity pools across different chains, and I only have, 100K. I can now put that 100K in one liquidity pool. It's a big liquidity pool. So I have a little bit of wiggle room, and I have a little bit of defense against price impact. And I'm also going cross chain to 8 different chains. So your financial aspect is you're putting your one liquidity pool in one spot in one place. So you have that safety, and it's a lot cheaper. You're not doing multiple liquidity pools with multiple contracts, mind you. So you're also, as a project, when you go multi-chain, if you're on different chains, you're going to have different contracts. One of the ways Pawchain can help that is with that one liquidity pool, we give you the same contract across every chain. So your users can now navigate your project cross-chain with the same contract, and it's a lot easier for them to go cross-chain, right? Because they know they see something familiar. Oh, that's that same contract. I know where I'm at. Let me find my way back home. Kind of is the example I like to use, So it's there's a lot of there's a financial aspect, the user-friendly aspect, the safety aspect, and it's really just it's a lot easier from a project founder to manage one liquidity pool than 5. I mean, it's a headache to keep up with price impact, price arbitrage. You have to balance things out. Pawchain doesn't do that. Pawchain gives you to be able to focus one liquidity pool, one place, but be accessible across all chains. So you're doing a lot less work, and you're doing a lot less financial work as well.
Yeah, and for the users, less work for developers and project founders means that they can concentrate on what they're supposed to be concentrating on.
Yeah, and if you notice right now, everybody's doing a VC, everybody's doing a pre-sale because it's expensive to do this stuff,
Incredibly expensive. Expensive.
So we wanted projects to be able to. Sorry, go ahead. No,
I was going to say it's especially expensive, especially because of all the screaming into the void that's happening, and all the the way that these kind of empty projects or farming projects, I'd call them, are just basically spending investors' money to shout about themselves in order to fill their own pockets a lot of the time.
Yeah,
which makes it more and more and more expensive for projects that are actually trying to build useful things to make people's lives better.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think from a user standpoint, it's I know we talked about, like some of the founder standpoint, but that stuff trickles downhill. So with the one liquidity pool, now we can not the one liquidity pool, but things like infinitely scalable. That's how we're able to offer the users a gas-free wallet to be able to navigate this multi-chain environment, but you're doing it without ever spending another dime on gas again. In
that's crazy.
2023 alone, users spent over $3 billion in 2023 on the Ethereum blockchain for just gas.
Yeah.
Just gas, not fees,
Yeah.
not third party. That's just gas fees on the Ethereum blockchain. 3 billion. So we definitely wanted to solve that issue, because right now the only way to do it is through your crypto.com app, your BNB app, which is a good example on how Pawchain
Yes.
works. Imagine being in one of those apps and buy and sell, send, swap, receive Bitcoin. You can back out and go into Ethereum instantly. Buy, sell, send, swap, receive. Pawchain gives you the same liberties and the same freedoms, but in this case, it is your keys and it is your crypto. So we did actually solve that problem as well, and I'm very proud to say that.
Fantastic. Well, might be a weird thing for me to say, but I'm proud of you too. So
thanks, man. No, I absolutely. Hey, I applaud that and I appreciate that. You don't get told that much in this space, and that's what means the difference, man. I appreciate that 100%, brother.
It's I genuinely do. The way that we've been building Zypto over the years, we've met fantastic people doing fantastic things, and the exact opposite of that. So I'm always happy to applaud people publicly for when they're doing good work. So I think we've got one final question. We've got Danny. So how do you see the role of centralized exchanges changing in the next couple of years? It's a good one because it's related to what you were just saying.
Yes, I like that question. I was just reading it. I was hoping we'd be able to get to it. So if you already see them changing, you saw Coinbase come out with Base. You had the Base network. You've got wallets. You saw them a few years ago getting ready when they started to launch DeFi wallets. Now every CEX isn't taking the same. They're not taking the same steps that the other ones are taking, but they're not taking them as fast. Like Coinbase is moving and Crypto.com is moving a lot faster than some of the other ones. But they're already moving. They're already making their DeFi wallets. They're trying to make their own chains because they want to offer the interoperability and the connections. So I see the CEX kind of evolving into a hub, because right now it's a good on and off ramp. If you want to buy some Ethereum, you have a CEX, you're going to buy some Ethereum, send it from that wallet to your MetaMask, boom, you're done. That's your gas. So they're good on and off ramp, but I see them evolving into places that you can earn more for learning. You have an earn and learn program that's really, really popular with the CEXs, where they'll pay you a little bit of crypto to take a quiz or something. And that's really, really cool. I think that's a very useful tool that we could probably take a page out of their playbook. So I see them evolving more into user friendliness and interoperability, but more so to the DeFi side, because they want to be able to offer degen plays, but they want to be able to do it with the same safety net that a CEX provides. And that's going to be tricky, but I feel like we're taking great strides to be able to make that connection with everyone.
I'll tell you what, 21, you just described what we're building. That's exactly what we're working towards.
Nice.
So to put in my own grain of salt here, is that even a thing? Sometimes I get mixed up with languages. So
no, that's the thing. That's the thing. Sprinkle us, salt us up like Robert Downey Jr.
Yes. So my own opinion on this is that centralized exchanges have had such dominance because of the lack of decent user experience in the DeFi space, first of all. Secondly, because of gas fees for trading, which are horrendous. It's pretty terrible for payments as well, I have to say, gas fees. But that's why centralized exchanges have had this dominance. As blockchain technology evolves and improves in many ways, people are going to move away from centralized systems. That is not to say that centralized systems are always bad. I do think they have a place. So, for example, anyway, I can't get into everything that we're going to be doing, but
right.
We didn't call our app Zypto Wallet. We called it Zypto App. The reason for that is because it's a crypto app. It's a crypto-focused app. It's going to have all sorts of other things built in that will help you to manage your whole, all of your finances, no matter where you've got your money and in what form your money is. You should be able to do whatever you want with it. But it's not an exchange. It's not just a wallet. Once everybody sees it in its final form, I think everyone will understand what the vision is. And it's basically this, something that's useful for people. They don't have to think too much about the technology that's going on in the back end. We'll work with all the great people like Pawchain and the other blockchains that we've been speaking with, the other partners that we've got out there, MoneyGram, also on the traditional finance side, MoneyGram and banks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in the end, people just spend their money on what they want to spend it on. So we're kind of the front end. We're doing more of the front end stuff compared to what you guys are doing.
Nice. But see, that's what makes it user friendly, and I think that's a very important role. And I love that someone else is building in the same direction. We're both building in the same direction. We're just going to kind of meet in the middle, and that's what makes me so bullish on things like working with people like Zypto. It's absolutely, this is what it takes. We can't. It takes a village to raise a baby, and this baby we're raising is named blockchain. So we all have to contribute.
That's one of my favorite expressions, by the way. It takes I think in Spain they say a town. I'm not quite sure. So I was going to say on what you just mentioned. I've been saying the words convergent evolution quite a lot recently. The fact that a lot of us are working towards similar goals is similar to how animals that live in a similar environment tend to evolve a similar body form or kind of a survival technique, a way of life. So we're moving in that direction because that's the right way to go. So every time I see people like yourselves doing this kind of thing, it gets me even more excited because it kind of confirms that we're not being lunatics. So even though sometimes you feel like it. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up there, 21. Thank you everybody for your questions. So everyone, make sure that you visit pawchain.net. That's pawchain.net. Say hi to them on all their social media accounts from Zypto. Say you heard about them on the podcast. Where would be the best social media, or Telegram, X? Which ones are your preferred?
We've got Telegram, X, Discord, Reddit. We've got a thriving community on each of these great platforms, and we're looking to do TikTok in the future. So, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I thought I was cutting out. So yeah, we got Discord, Telegram, Twitter, and Reddit, and they're all great, thriving communities. And I would implore you to stop by all of them if you can. We've got different things happening on different ones, so it's always cool, and there's always something happening. So definitely stop by and say hello.
Fantastic. Okay, I also encourage everybody to come and join us on @Zypto Global, the Zyptonian community, and visit zypto.com to find out about everything that we're doing. Download our app. We've got our referral program live now. We've got the rewards hub. We're adding more and more blockchains and other cool stuff. So make sure you check it out. Obviously, make sure to help us with the fickle algorithm gods of the internet. So subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, other podcast channels. Leave us a nice thumbs up, loads of stars, smiley face emojis, nice comments, etc., etc. I have been Joe Parkin, and I'll see you again very soon for another episode with another great guest. If you like to join recordings live, come and see us in Telegram. Any closing comments, 21?
Thank you so much for everyone for stopping by and spending your time with us this morning. I absolutely can't thank you enough. I love being here and representing the project and representing the space and the builders here. And I look forward to not only building with Zypto, but building with each and every one of you out there. So definitely thank you, and big salute to everyone, and have a great day.
Brilliant. Thanks, 21, especially considering your technical difficulties. Much appreciated.
Yes, all apologies for that. My biggest apologies for that.
It's fine. As you'll see, the edit will be absolutely immaculate. It won't. It will be. You'll still know that there were issues, but it'll be fine. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks again, guys.